Hello everybody, welcome to this short video on adolescent development. The reason for choosing this topic is for you to understand what are the developmental changes that will occur as a result of puberty in your child and what to expect in the coming years. So let us see what are the stages of adolescence. So adolescence begins at puberty and it will start at the end of childhood and will continue up until adulthood. So it's categorized into three phases. You have individuals of 10 to 14 years are considered to be in early adolescence, 15 to 17-year-olds are in middle adolescence, and 18 to about 25 years old are in the late adolescent period. So what's new? Mainly, there will be changes in one's physical appearance, and the child will now have the ability to reproduce. The reason this change occurs is due to a signal that is received and passed on by and from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland, which then will start signaling all of the endocrine glands to act in accordance as to bring about primary and secondary sexual characteristic changes. You will see that each individual has both male sex hormones and female sex hormones. The main class of male sex hormones are androgens, and the main hormone of that is testosterone. You will see that there is a 12-fold increase in males and 2-fold increase in females after puberty. The physical changes resulting from this change is going to be the development of external genitalia. You have increases in height, voice changes, hair changes, and if you look at estrogen, that is the main class of female sex hormones, under which estradiol is the main sex hormone, you will see that there is an 8-fold increase in females and a 2-fold estradiol increase in males. Resulting from this estradiol change, you have breast development, uterine development, and skeletal changes like increase in the girth of the hips, decrease in waist size, facial changes, and so on. So you will see that the resulting physical change that will occur as a result of the hormonal changes will be a drastic change for the teenager. So if that change is not accepted or it is not expected or desired by the child, then he or she may experience some amount of body dissatisfaction. They may have some trouble with their body image, and as a parent, it's important for you to develop in them healthy attitudes towards themselves as well as body positivity and enable them or support them in helping them to reach their target weight or target appearance. What are the determinants of puberty now? You see that in puberty, heredity plays an important role. Hormones and endocrine factors, as discussed earlier, weight, body fat, and leptin. Here is an important point in extension to our previous slide where we said we need to inculcate healthy attitudes about your teenager's weight, and this doesn't mean that the teenager will over-exercise and will not, will starve themselves in order to lose weight or reach these ideals that are propagated by media or self-desired by the teenager. In fact, the onset of puberty is very much dependent on body fat. So for menarche, that is the first menstruation for females, you will see if that the female does not have at least 17% of their body weight as body fat, then they are going to have a delay in their menarche. The same is seen at age 18, where if the individual is to expect regular menstruation, then their body fat has to be at least 22% of their total body weight at the age of 18. Leptin is a protein created by the fat cells and again helps in the regulation, the changes, and the final appearance that will be seen as a result of the pubertal changes. You have socio-cultural and environmental factors which will play a very important role in the onset of puberty as well as the course of puberty. So we have seen that lately, due to the lifestyle changes, due to the socio-cultural changes as well as the environmental changes, the age of onset for menarche and spermarchy has now, from later ages, from average 17 years, has dropped to around 14 years. So there is a earlier onset when it comes to puberty due to from if you compare it to the last 100 years. Stress also becomes an important factor in determining puberty. Stress is the main cause as well as the consequence of hormonal changes, and hence an individual experiencing stress will have interference with their hormonal changes associated with puberty. An important brain area, the hypothalamus, which we have seen before, is the regulator of the pituitary gland, is responsible for initiating the cycle or the cascade of effects that will then start with puberty and follow up with all the changes that we will be speaking of in this video. This brain region is not only responsible for those functions but is also responsible for homeostasis, other biological drives like thirst, hunger, sex, in temperature control, weight regulation, and most importantly in emotional regulation. As a result of all these interrelated and interdependent activities that the hypothalamus is responsible for, you will see that there are a lot of psychological changes that will come about in your adolescent as a result of puberty. So this is what you may begin to expect now that your child is already in the end of their early adolescence and just entering the middle adolescence, where if we talk about standard 9 students, then you will see all these changes will already perhaps be occurring, and those that haven't may already be there that you may be unaware of, or you can expect them in the future. So these are the psychological changes in the adolescent psyche. Firstly, the adolescent is going to be forming their identity in these crucial periods of their life. So a healthy opinion or attitude towards themselves or their identity, as opposed to role confusion, will be seen if the individual has other interpersonal or personal situations which may hinder them to forming a consistent and a coherent sense of self. Independence and autonomy in thought, in behavior, in decision making will be sought by the adolescent. So because they are coming out of childhood, they want to make their own decisions and will insist that they do. It is important to not force decisions on children but instead collaborate with them and guide them rather than command them in what to do. exploration. So, due to the tendency to form identities, their tendency for autonomy, you will see that they are also very much into exploring new activities, new practices, new roles that they want to explore and see if it fits into their interests. Impulsivity refers to a inability to think effectively before acting. So this would be seen in quick decisions, rash decisions, where the adolescent may not realize that uh, giving decision making some time or taking time to make important decisions in life is crucial for making the right decisions. So it's important to not judge your adolescent or to not condemn your adolescent, but instead understand that they are going to be impulsive. They may act without thinking about the consequences, and you as a parent can only support them, guide them in the right direction, and help them to cope or come up with new coping techniques in order to make decisions effectively. Emotionality will be seen, that is, there is going to be a unstable display of emotions, as well as a more intense, more dramatic behavioral response or reaction of emotions rather than just verbal or psychological. The looking glass self is a phenomena where the individual is going to look at themselves from the eyes of others. So, how others are going to evaluate them is going to form their sense of identity of themselves. So, how you, as well as the people around the adolescent, are viewing them, that forms a very important template for themselves to judge and guide who they are and what they are capable of and what is their worth and how they will evaluate their abilities as opposed to what they really are. So it will be more dependent on what others feel about them than what they themselves feel. Fallacy of invulnerability. Here, the adolescent has a tendency to feel invincible, that is, to feel indestructible. So, certain things like dangers that you may try to warn them of, they may say that this can never happen to me, this won't happen to me, I won't fall into this. So there is a sense of grandiose sense of invulnerability, where they feel that no, I won't be affected, and I will not be involved in anything that is negative. I will only have successes. I can do anything and everything that I want. So it's important to understand that this is a tendency and to not condemn it or shame it out of the child, but of instead of that, you realistically appraise the situation for the child, and you must be able to clearly communicate to the child why, and if not why, then how they could change their situation so that they are not going to be facing any of the consequences due to their exploration, due to their impulsivity, due to their fallacy of invulnerability. Moving on. So the adolescent is also going to imagine an audience. So they will become very, very wary of somebody. They will feel that somebody is watching them or others are judging them. They will feel that their actions are being observed, watched by someone else when they are in public. And what personal fable means is the adolescent may feel that nobody is going through what they are going through, and hence they will make statements like, nobody understands me, or you won't get it, or you will never understand what I'm going through. Sensation seeking is their tendency to seek out thrilling situations, people where they are going to want and seek stimulation of sorts, excitement, novelty, that is new things, and they would instead, like at times, be involved in either good sensation seeking activities like trying out new hobbies, talents, or at times they may engage in risky behaviors, which would mean riding or fast, or trying substances, and trying to know more about taboo subjects. Abstract thinking is seen in adolescence, where they are going to be more idealistic, more cause oriented, rather than thinking in black and white terms. Hypothetical deductive reasoning is a very important and adaptive change in adolescence. Here, the adolescent is going to make predictions, have suppositions, and is going to act or experiment to see whether or not those predicted circumstances are going to be realized or no. So they will engage in observed experiments, or they may engage in trying to find relations, associations between what they already know and new subjects and interests. There will be some changes in morality as compared to children. In adolescence, there is more of a justice orientation rather than just the textbook laws that will be taught to them. Here, they will focus instead more on individual rights. So, your adolescent may be quick to point out inconsistencies in your behavior, in the behavior of others, and they may not be tolerant to injustice or inconsistencies, or in, say, for example, discipline, in the attention that you give. So here you will see that there will be a massive change in their value system. An important change that occurs here is the preference for staying up later in the night. Please understand that this isn't a choice that the adolescent is making, and in fact, the hormones that are released in the night that induce sleep, that is melatonin and other hormones that bring about sleep, in adolescence, their release is delayed by 1 hour or so. And if you see it, if in terms of standard time, the release will start occurring at 11 p.m., 12 a.m. instead of the earlier times at which the adolescent would go to bed. Let's discuss a few of the social changes that will occur as a result of adolescence. There will be an increased motivation for social relations, as well as an increased sensitivity to social criticisms. Peer identification is observed, that is, the adolescent is going to want to act in accordance with or spend more time with people of their own age rather than their parents or their younger siblings. So peers, the individuals of the same age, will be seen as the most preferred company by adolescents. There will be increased sensitivity to social evaluation. So any feedback, criticism, constructive, as well, may be seen or taken a bit sensitively as opposed to when they were children. Adolescents are also on the lookout for mentors, that is, role models who they wish to emulate, who they wish to be like. So, as a parent, it's important for you to also display or practice healthy behaviors when it comes to emotional regulation, communication, and other coping skills, so that the individual, the adolescent, can learn good things from you. An important social change seen in adolescence is a augmentation of conflicts with parents. In fact, the conflicts are seen mostly with the same sex parent, and the most amount of conflicts are seen in female adolescents and female mothers. So, as compared to male children and fathers, you will see the conflict is reported mostly with between the female child and parent. Of course, this would be different from culture to culture. I am speaking of, unfortunately, here American statistics. This is universal that the brain of an adolescent is going to be under construction. Up until the age of 25, 26, the brain is still not fully developed, and this period is for the peak of crucial developmental changes that occur. You will see that new connections, new cells, neurogenesis, new cells will be formed and created, and the ones that aren't necessary will be eliminated. That is, only the ones that are needed will be maintained, as the ones that are not will be gotten rid of. There will be an increase in the white matter. White matter is the insulation that allows faster connection. So habits are formed as a result of white matter myelination, insulation that allows electrical impulses to pass faster. So there will be an increase in that so as to make any of the skills that the adolescent learns into habit. So because of this, habits are formed faster in adolescence. The key feature of adolescent brain change is the development of the prefrontal cortex, means the area near your forehead that is developed last, and the peak is seen in adolescence. This frontal region is responsible for executive functionings like decision making, planning, goal directedness, priority setting, all of which are absolutely crucial for adult life. So, the adolescent is going to see this development in adolescence. All of these changes are affected by the environment, and they will include the quality of company that your child is in, whether or not he or she is using any substances in terms of even unhealthy foods, the learnings that they are taking, they are having not just in school but social learning, emotional learning. Any form of trauma for the child is going to affect their brain development, nutrition, parenting, education. All of this is going to play a very, very important role. Here we see the myelin, the insulation. And it is important to understand that this period, as mentioned before, is for rapid learning and brain development. And that is because there is structural and functional remodeling that is occurring of the brain cells. As we spoke, neurogenesis, there is pruning, that is elimination of things that you are cells of that are not being used. So for example, if a child has learnt some activity in their childhood and they aren't practicing it in their adolescence, it is more likely to be forgotten than to be remembered if it is not practiced. So here you see a comparison of brain development in 5-year-olds, in the preteen brain, the teen brain, and a 20-year-old brain. You see the reds, the oranges and the yellows are for less developed brain regions, and the blue is when the brain region is developed more. So you see that brain development is less for a 5-year-old, and it keeps increasing right up to 20 years and above. For the executive functions, as we mentioned, this is the prefrontal region. You see, the visual cortex is going to remain active from a young age. Parietal regions for spatial reasoning, mathematical abilities. You will see a more global improvement in brain development at teenage years, and much more in the frontal regions at around 20 years of age. As discussed, the principle that the cells are using is use it or lose it. So it's very important to, for if you want your adolescent to, or your child to be a very successful adult, this is a good time for them to build the necessary skills in order to become a successful adult. So as a parent, you can increase their exposure to a variety of different activities and experiences in order to capitalize on this increased learning ability. And because the brain is very receptive during this stage, it is going to learn quicker and faster due to those structural and functional remodeling and reconfiguration abilities that are resulting as adolescence kicks in. So here are some practical implications that you can put into use for in your day-to-day parenting. Firstly, encourage your adolescent to sleep well. Help them to reduce their stress by increasing their coping skills. Teach them to be solution focused, not avoidant, not problem focused, and instead seek appropriate support when necessary. Also enhance your own parenting skills so that it helps them to also learn by modeling your coping skills. Involve them in physical activities, because this will facilitate not only their physical health but also their mental and social health. Also remember that physical activities increase the learning capacity of the child. Some other practical implications will include you actively avoiding the risks which may make your adolescent more prone or vulnerable to using substances. It is important for you to discuss the ill implications of substances. You must not discourage the child from coming to you. If in case they are using substances, you must allow them the comfort or give them the confidence to let them know that it is okay for them to speak to you if by any chance they are exposed to substances by peers or others, and to reach out to you in order to seek help on how to stop it. Increase hands-on learning and experiences. So more practical forms of learning, group learning, learning with your child, learning by teaching, all of these will help your child to learn rather than to just have them read or watch something from a screen. Hands-on learning, because of the brain developmental changes, is going to be more beneficial for them to be able to pick up. Simplify the tasks and requests that you place on your child. Communicate with your child clearly, and especially about your own difficulties. Communicate emotions appropriately, regulate and manage your own emotions appropriately, and do not ice your child out, or do not keep your child in the dark about matters which you feel are difficult for you to manage. Collaborate while setting goals. Do not demand behavior change. Instead, work with your child in order to set and prioritize goals for appropriate behaviors. an important subject here, and in the coming years for you to discuss with your child will be sexuality and reproductivity. As you are aware, sexuality is not just restricted to heterosexual relations. That is, it's not just about men being attracted to women and vice versa. Sexuality is broad, more diverse, and your adolescent is going to refer to the internet of people of the world on the World Wide Web, and is going to be exposed or identified with different sexual identities and different gender orientations. So it is important for you to also be aware that this is very much normal for your child to have different sexual preferences than the ones that so far have been stigmatized, or they are going to be different from the ones that dogmatically have been prescribed by society. It's also important for you to, when the age is appropriate, a little for maybe a little after their school, you will have to be speaking with them about safe sex practices when it comes to their the phase where they begin to have boyfriends and girlfriends. It's important for you and for teachers to discuss safe sex practices. Reproductive health, when the need arises, this conversation is also important for you to have with your child. Let us look at some of the different sexual orientations. You have a person being asexual will imply no attraction to any of the genders. Gray sexual is almost never attracted, so very rarely. And demisexual would be those who are attracted only when there is an emotional connection. Hetero is the one where two opposite sexes are attracted to one another. Homosexuals are those that are attracted to the same sex, and bisexual are those that are attracted to both sexes. Pansexuals are those that are attracted regardless of the sex or gender identity, and they are going to be attracted to the person, not to their biological gender. And polysexual refers to those that are attracted to other sexes, not all, but not just their own. So here LGBTQ refers to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and queer. So as you know, we have already discussed lesbian, gay will be homosexual, heterosexual, bisexual. Transsexuals are those that don't identify with the gender that is assigned at birth. So your female daughter would, although she has the biological sex, so she was born female, her brain may be male, and she may identify herself as a male. So this is an example of being transsexual. A cisgender is somebody who identifies with their biological sex. Pansexual, as we have discussed, is attracted to a wide variety of gender and sexual oriented people. So you have males, females, transgender, queer, etc. So we have discussed these. You also have intersex, wherein someone who has the physical characteristics that don't align with just one gender. So here the person may a male biologically male individual may be also identifying themselves as male, but they may have feminine features. So this is due to what we had discussed earlier, how males and females will both have male and female sex hormones. It is dependent on a lot of factors, not just based on the individual him or herself, but also prenatal factors, that is during pregnancy. For example, if let's take a female child is in the womb, and during the when there is genital formations, when there is a brain development period, at that time if the mother experiences stress, then she is going to have an excess of male sex hormones that are being released. As a result, the female in the womb is going to may have a male brain, and this is how the various spectrum of identity differences in gender and sexual orientations is seen as even a result of prenatal development. So gender is on the spectrum where you have same for sexual orientation. So in gender you have feminine on one end and masculine on another. So people are going to be anywhere in between. A male or a female could be anywhere in between this on this spectrum, in between complete masculinity and complete femininity. So it is not that it is just black and white, not just feminine, not just masculine. It can be anywhere on this line that the individual may lie. The same with heterosexuals and homosexuals and bisexual in the middle. A person may be in on any point over here on this entire spectrum, and their position on the spectrum may change over time. These are the golden years of your child's life, from puberty till the age of about 25, 26, 27. Because of these changes that are occurring and because of the remodeling, reconfiguration, you will see that this period is very, very critical, very, very crucial to pick up habits, to pick up skills. It is a period where the emotional circuitry of the individual is built, as well as their sensitivity or reactivity to stress is established at adolescence. So based on their environment, based on their behaviors today, that is going to have a huge impact for the rest of their lives. Thank you very much for your patient listening and attention. If you have any question, feel free to leave me a message. You'll have excellent counselors in the school who you can contact for any of these difficulties, any questions based on what we've discussed. And I really hope that this was a useful session for you. Thank you very much once again, and have a lovely day.